Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. Be seen on WHPR Detroit Live, Comcast Cable Channel 91, on the web at TV33WHPR.com, with the TV33 app, on Roku, Google TV, Apple TV, and on Amazon Fire TV. Act now. Time slots are limited. Sign up today and get a free replay with the purchase of your time slot. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mikael from Healthwise Enterprise, the health food store that's located at 3807 East 8 Mile Road, about 3 blocks west of Ryan. And we're there to service you from 10 to 7, Monday through Saturday. And you can always give us a call directly at the store at 586-757-DIET. Again, that's 586-757-3438. Our old number still works, 313-366-DIET. And if you want to reach me directly, I encourage you to text because, I don't know, God got me working overtime, it seems. Because sometimes the calls go to the store, but you can text me or call 313-600-8532. Well, you've heard of COVID. Well, just wanted to let you know we finally got some more plugs in. And what I've heard a year ago from different sources, Dr. McCullough and other places, that the 5G give you the same symptoms as COVID, all right? And how to prevent and neutralize 5G is it plug. Based on the research from the engineer who developed the plug, it reduces the 5G effect. And your phone put out radiation energy, okay, electromagnetic field. The plug reduces that electromagnetic field and turn your cell phone into a healing instrument and a protective instrument because it has like a 3-foot range. So long as it's near you, that 5G doesn't affect you, okay? And if you get the plug for your home or business, not only after 2 days protect you from 5G inside your house, but 5 feet outside your house, okay? And once, like I said, energy is put in your phone, you could put your phone next to 1 million other phones, and in 5 minutes, it's going to reduce the radiation, the 5G from that phone, and turn that phone into a healing instrument too. You get your money back in about 6 months because your electric bill is reduced by 15 to 20%. Okay, we know that for a fact because when we first got the plugs, we didn't know we were supposed to turn our refrigerator and stuff down. We had just bought 20, 30 something dozen eggs, and they all froze because once we put the plug in, it made your refrigerator more efficient, and we had to turn the refrigerator down because, and I always warn people, when you get the plug, make sure your refrigerator's on course because your refrigerator could turn into a freezer and mess up all your foods like it did us. And you can check your electric bill compared to last year to this year. Everybody have done it. They've seen that their bill went down. Okay, and not only protect you against 5G, it turn your phone into a healing instrument. And so, like, when we go shopping, they grow a lot of our food with genetically modified organisms and stuff, chemicals and drugs, pesticides, herbicides, etc. You can put your phone next to your food for 15 minutes, based on the report, and it'll neutralize the negative effects from the GMOs. Okay, it reminds the food of its origin, and it's remarkable. This is all based on studies and reports that was done by the engineer who developed the plug. So that's one source of good news. Okay, another source of good news, I can get this here, is simple steps to prevent breast cancer. Now, I read this article, was studying it. It's from Dr. McCullough. It came out May the 9th, 2021. This lady had wrote this book, Sandra Wadi Ellis. Okay, she's a PhD, and it discussed in her book the busting breast cancer. Okay, and she didn't mention this, but I want to say this. From Dr. Group, he had this article talk about iodine, and he said that women store the highest amount of iodine in the breast tissues and the urinary tissues, and it's hard, if not impossible, for cancer to grow when there's a high amount of iodine. So we took that and say, well, I know God didn't discriminate. And taking 3 drops of iodine a day, I think it would protect the men too from cancer. Well, it rarely do men get breast cancer, but just having the iodine in your body, and especially when we find out that 98% of the American population is iodine deficient. They set the iodine level in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, something like that in the Midwest, real low, because they found out that 120 micromilligrams per day will prevent, I think, this disease they call it curry, that a lot of Midwesterners were getting, back in the 20s and 30s. This iodine from Dr. Group, called detoxidine, that we have at Healthwise, give you 1,950 micromilligrams per 3 drops. Each drop is 650. Okay, and suggests you take 3 drops. He says 70% of the people put it up under their tongue, and putting things up under your tongue, there's ducts underneath your tongue that takes you right into your blood system. And it helps with the brain, this brain fog, and helps put out some of these heavy metals that we're exposed to from the air and the water and the food. There's a number of things that the iodine does. And if you stop by Healthwise, we got this short report that's a summary of what Dr. Group had talked about. If you want to know the whole group story, you can check it out on YouTube. Now, so he did mention another good thing was the vitamin D3. Okay, as far as prevention of breast cancer in this article. All right. We know D3, people deal with COVID and D3, and it was so effective in dealing with COVID that the thugs made Dr. Makota take it off his website, and how D3 is so effective. And it wasn't, he was doing the research, it was other studies from around the world that had did this, the research about vitamin D3, taking 10,000 using that a day, and how to prevent COVID and colds and flus and cancers, and just on and on and on what they talked about. But they made him take it off his website. I don't mean it ain't true, it just ain't on the website. But back to this article, which I thought was real interesting, because the increase of women getting breast cancer is higher. It's higher and higher. And you wonder why, and then this article gets into how they manipulated to the point where things that was cost 50 cents now cost $800 to protect you, and this devices and these chemicals and drugs is now increasing breast cancer, and I guess that makes more money. So We are in the mindset of helping prevent breast cancer. I'm heavy into prevention and prevent breast cancer, cancers, period. Just in the mindset of giving you the knowledge so that you can take the action to prevent a lot of diseases. Like Dick Gregory says, real simple. Um, if you just drink the water based on your body weight, would knock out 50% of the diseases in this country, based on, it's a quote from Dick Gregory. Because 98% of all diseases originate in the colon, which is how I got into this business back in the 60s. The for-profit cancer industry makes a fortune over diagnosing breast cancer cases and then treat them with toxic remedies that increase your risk of developing real cancer. That was so profound. I had to read that one again. The for-profit cancer industry makes a fortune overdiagnosing breast cancer cases and treating them with toxic remedies that increase your risk of developing real cancer. Because when you develop real cancer, then that's when they make their money. Okay, here we got ductal carcinoma in situ. The abbreviation is DCIS. Now called stage 0 breast cancer. It's not actually a tumor. It's non-invasive. It's not cancer. Studies suggest only about 5% of DCIS will eventually, a decade or more down the line, turn into cancer. 20 to 40% of women who have been successfully treated for early stage breast cancer in the United States today end up with reoccurring ballistic breast cancer. Effective prevention strategy details in Susan Wiley-Ellis' book, quote, Busting Breast Cancer, 5 Simple Steps to Keep Breast Cancer Out of Your Body, including optimizing your weight, avoiding progestin drugs, and maintaining a high vitamin D3 level. Another thing is processed foods are culprits that need to be avoided at all costs, particularly foods high in refined and hydrogenated vegetable oils, as they are loaded with harmful omega-6 lactic acid that disrupts your metabolic machinery. All right. So this is a case. We come in with you had a plug, and energy from the plug reduces the radiation from your cell phone. Turn your cell phone into a healing instrument. Now you put it next to this fast food for 15 minutes. It's just a step to prevent. Okay. In this interview, Susan Wiley-Ellis, PhD, discussed breast treatment as an unnecessary U.S. epidemic and how to prevent it, which is the topic of her new book, quote, Busting Breast Cancer, 5 Simple Steps to Keep Breast Cancer Out of Your Body. You can go to the Amazon and check out this book. It's like $19.99. I'm going to see if I can get some copies of it. But right now, you can go to Amazon and other book sources and order it. This year alone, an expected 300,000 women in the U.S. will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. Another 50,000 are projected to be diagnosed with non-invasive breast cancer, which is all likelihood isn't cancer at all. Woo-wee. Dr. Wiley-Ellis has a graduate degree in energy economics and political development. MALD, and a PhD in women's studies with a focus on women's autobiological writing. This is real means This really means that I am an investigative reporter, she says. And so I'm come to this with a very innocent, independent mind. The inspiration behind the book was Dr. Wells' experience of losing several friends to recurring ballistic breast cancer, meaning cancer that was successfully treated at an early stage only to later return as a terminal stage or metastatic disease. A terminal disease. Makes me think about another cancer prevention treatment from Dr. Otto Warburg, who got a Nobel Peace Prize back in 1931 for curing people of all kinds of cancers, not just breast cancer, from 23 to 31. He got the Nobel Peace Prize, and you don't hear anything else after that. I guess he got the message to be quiet. Not like Martin Luther King. He got the Nobel Peace Prize in 63, and I guess he was told to be quiet, and he kept on going. 5 years, we know what happened to him. But the information about how cancer can't stand oxygen using food grade hydrogen peroxide, water is H2O. Adding one more molecule of oxygen, make it H2O2, it's hydrogen peroxide. And get some of that once or twice a month. Take about 8 ounces with a tub of water and soak in it. Is one of the fastest ways of getting a high level of oxygen into your system. But prevents a whole lot of different diseases. Heck, our water that we give away at Healthwise is loaded with oxygen. Okay. See, I'm heavy into prevention. Taking coffee enemas is another major step to preventing cancer. Okay, people say, well, I'd rather drink my coffee. I understand. But coffee enemas used to be in this Murph medical book, which is like their Bible, up until 1970 when they took it out. Okay, coffee enemas is very, very effective in preventing diseases from developing. Because, see, 98% of all diseases originate in the colon. It's remarkable. Most Americans got 25 pounds of undigested fecal matter in their colon alone. You take 25 pounds of undigested fecal matter anywhere in your house, it will run you out your house. But they carrying that around and they not dying instantly, but they getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So that's why we get into the oxy powder pills, which help pulls that waste out. But you got to drink the water, because the first place the body goes to get water is the colon. How much water you should drink, based on Dick Gregory, suggests that if you take your body weight, divide it by 2, and get a number of ounces that your body needs of water per day. It ends up replacing about 5% of all the water in your body, because your body is over 75% water, kind of like the earth. Between 20 and 40% of women who have been, quote, successfully treated in the United States today will end up with recurring metastatic breast cancer, okay, what they call terminal stage cancer, which means an early death sentence for most women. And I just got very angry. I love to investigate new topics. I've always been a change maker throughout my whole career. I just followed and done what I needed to do, and this I just fell into, and women would not let it go. Breast cancer treatment is a for-profit industry. The for-profit cancer industry makes a fortune overdiagnosing breast cancer cases and then treating women with inflammatory and toxic remedies that increase your risk of developing real cancer. So overall, the financial component is motivating catalyst in the U.S. for much of what we have seen within the breast cancer industry, including that so-called Breast Cancer Awareness Month that can be translated as Get Your Mammogram Month. Now, Dr. Wallinger told us that the ultrasound is just as effective in diagnosing early stages of cancer or cancer period without the radiation. The problem is, in this for-profit industry, it only costs, well, last time I checked years ago was only $8,000. The mammogram a few years ago was like $45,000. So the profit motivated industry, breast cancer industry, look at $8,000 for the ultrasound or the $45,000 for the mammogram. Yes, we have breast cancer awareness month, or Get Your Mammogram month. Okay. So ultrasound without the radiation. Quote, the reason I wanted to do this book was really to teach women how to avoid getting breast cancer. Once you have a mammogram, you can sometimes end up being unsuccessfully diagnosed and treated. And then what becomes increasingly expensive and harmful. As I said, 20 to 40% of women who are being diagnosed and treated for an early stage cancer ends up being treated for reoccurring ballistic death breast cancer, okay? Which means they end up in an unordinated spending an enormous amount of money. These metastatic drugs or death drugs that have been developed are not even meant to stop the disease. They have been developed to extend your life by a matter of months instead of years. So remember, they focus on treatment, not cures. Because there's money in treatment, there ain't no money in curing somebody of breast cancer. The reason why it's so important for women to read the book and understand the 5 simple steps to busting breast cancer is because most of these steps go against everything that the American Cancer Society is telling us. That Susan G. Cormick is telling us that in most cases, our regular primary care physicians are telling us. And women have a much harder time questioning authorities than men. And so, as the breast cancer has now become an epidemic that surrounds us, women have got to learn how to look at the facts, learn to be brave, and question authority, and take risks by going against these authorities. From early stages, women are much more terrified of going against authorities. And in order to protect ourselves and knock down the risk of breast cancer by 80% or more, it means a woman is going to have to stand up to the American Cancer Society and say, yes, I'm going to have a critical breast exam. Yes, I'm going to be breast self-exam again. And no, I don't want a mammogram. All of these things that go against what women are being taught right now by the cancer industry. That's a quote from her book. I'm doing extensive articles on mammogram in the past. This is Dr. McCoda. He had talked about how harmful they are. So much so that the state of Illinois medical board tried to remove my license, Dr. McCoda says. Even though I wasn't selling anything related to breast cancer. I was just telling people about the danger of mammograms and disrupting the disputed a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. I appealed and sued the medical board in the state of Illinois Supreme Court and won on grounds of First Amendment freedom of speech, which is progressively being destroyed in real time in 2021. But that just goes to show the lengths to which the industry will go to protect the conventional narrative, a narrative that is ultimately harming more women than it helps. That is the reason I got to share this article with you, because I had several relatives, females, who don't know any of this. Cancer is a lifestyle disease, okay? That food they're giving us is harmful. As noted by Dr. Y.D. Ellis, statistical studies reveal there are a number of lifestyle and environmental issues that raise a woman's breast cancer risk, including birth control drugs and vitamin D3 deficiency. Okay? Yet, the medical industry still has no answer for why breast cancer occurs. They treat it like it's a mystery that no one knows anything about, which simply is not true. In 2013, Dr. Wally Ellis discovered Thomas Saffield's book, quote, The Metabolic Theory of Cancer, which I have highlighted in many previous articles. Dr. Saffield's theory on the origin of that first cancer cell allowed her to finally connect dots of statistical studies on the risk of birth control drugs, progesterone, menopausal drugs, mammograms, biopsy, environmental toxins, and more. She was finally able for the first time to develop a clear set of biological-based effective breast cancer prevention strategies for individual women. Quote, women need to understand that we can prevent this disease probably 80%, if not more, of the time, she says. Lifestyle variables reviewed in Dr. Weller's book include the danger of chemical progesterone drugs, toxic unbalanced level of estrogen from excess body fats, and high cortisol levels from chronic long-term stress. These are all significant assaults that contribute to the suffocation of breast cells mitochondria. This suffocation is the first step in the creation of that first cancer cell. So the stress, those bottles of water, when you get your bottle of water, it usually have a triangle on the bottom of it. And it usually have a 1. And if you leave that water in your car, like now it's getting warmer, you could taste the poisonous substance that released from that plastic into the water. What I learned years ago is they make that plastic with horse urine, and it's loaded with estrogen. Toxic, unbalanced levels of estrogen, okay, contributing to the breast cancer. So we're going to drink the water. Make sure it's not stored in those bottles with the triangle with the 1 in it. Besides having PBA, now you can see why it contributes to breast cancer. Because of the estrogen in it, and it make the men timid. Estrogen, okay? Processed foods. They make that with nitrates, pesticides, and herbicides. Okay. It's the processed foods are another culprit that need to be avoided. Foods high in refined and hydrogenated vegetable oils, in particular, as they are loaded with an omega-6 fat called lecithin acid, LA. Minimizing LA to pre-1850 levels, or 1 to 2% of your total body calorie intake, which is 90 to 95% lower than what the average American consume, is critical. I believe it's probably the most significant metabolic poison in our diet, processed foods, leading to breast cancer. I think that's what she was referring to. Preventing begins with shedding excess body fat. Topping Dr. Wallach Ellis' list of prevention strategies is shedding excess body fat by following a low-carb or keto-style diet, which is more proteins. This type of daily eating helps lower the production of excess or unbalanced estrogen from the fat cells, which reduce long-term mitochondrial damage. Unknown to many, excess body fats create an enzyme called amylose, and enzymes require in the production of natural estrogen. Wow. The need to be careful about the types of fats you eat, however, going on a low carb, high fat diet will help only if you limit the intake of toxic omega-6 fats to less than 5% of your total calorie intake. Quote, I take us back to Saffield's metabolic theory of cancer. We now understand that what causes that first cancer cell to happen, be that a breast cancer cell or brain cancer cell, is assault on the mitochondria, the power batteries within the cell that eventually suffocate them. So all of these things are suffocating the mitochondria. And when you have unbalanced estrogen to progesterone or the chemical progestin, these are all toxin conditions that suffocate, that harms those mitochondria. In chapter 4 of her book, I talk about the importance of not taking birth control drugs. A combination of metabolic relief drugs, or even having a progesterone IUD inserted, because progestin has now been shown to not only accelerate breast cancer, but it also has the potential of initiating breast cancer. Quote, in short, excess of unbalanced estrogen will increase a woman's risk for breast cancer. That's why many who are diagnosed with breast cancer find they are not metabolizing or eliminating these progressive or unused estrogen efficiently, causing an unbalance. Dr. Wallace recommends getting a hormone balancing test to make sure your estrogen and the progestin levels are properly balanced. If not, getting an estrogen metabolic test done to see if your efficiency eliminate this progressive or excess estrogen. If your ability to eliminate your progressive estrogen is sluggish, there are supplements and other strategies that can help boost your ability to efficiently eliminate your used estrogen so they don't end up with toxin levels in your body. And ideally, we want to measure all three types of natural estrogen your body can make. Acetone, okay, all three. These ratio among these three are also very important. The danger of progesterone. Progesterone is a helpful and important natural hormone. Progesterone, a chemical that offers a few attributes of natural progesterone, however, can initiate and accelerate breast cancer. Intuitively, it makes sense that synthetic hormones might be more dangerous than naturally occurring ones made by your body. And in fact, they are. Dr. Wally Ellis explains, quote, in 2010, there was an incredibly important study that have gotten buried. The lead researcher was Joseph Pennington. On that international study team of about 12 people, one is now the CEO and president of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. The researchers spent 10 years working with mice in pre-medical settings, trying to figure out why women who take progesterone-based drugs, be they birth control drugs or metabolic drugs, have anywhere from 26% to an 8-fold increased risk of developing breast cancer. They finally published a study in 2010 that basically explained in some more detail, but not totally, how the progesterone pours out or activates something called Reiki, which is a protein. This Reiki, apparently, though they don't say these words, can suffocate the mitochondria in a woman's breast cells, initiating that first cancer cell. The sad thing is that no researchers in the field of breast cancer prevention can cite this study. They're not aware of it for some reason. But it was published in October 2010 in Natural magazine, which we all know is very significant, well-known scientific study. Typically, the medical and scientific progression contributes to deflate the term progesterone and progesterone, ignoring the fact that these substances are not the same. Chemically, they are very different. So, when reading studies, you have no way of knowing whether a researcher is talking about progesterone, the chemical that causes and accelerates breast cancer, or natural progesterone, which, when balanced with natural estrogen, does not cause a problem. In fact, natural progesterone appears to work as a tumor suppressor. It even used in men with prostate cancer with significant success. Proper administration of hormones. The delivery system of estrogen and or progesterone is a third issue that plays a role. The worst delivery method is oral delivery, as a hormone must go through your digestive system, and liver before it reaches your bloodstream. Okay. Terminal application is a problematic cause because over time, your body becomes increasingly resistant to it as built up in your cells. The most Ideal delivery method is translucitory, which you simply apply the cream or suppository either into your vagina or your rectum. This will bypass liver metabolism and get the hormone directly into your bloodstream. Now, importance of vitamin D3, okay, is another critical factor for cancer prevention. And we started to show off with another one, which was the detoxidine that we have at Healthwise, because it's loaded with 3 drops, which is suggested you take. It's just a little 1 ounce bottle. 3 drops a day is going to last most people 3 months. But it gives you over 1900 micromilligrams of the iodine. And Dr. Group says cancer cannot grow, and there's a high amount of iodine, and women store the highest amount of iodine in the breast tissues and the urinary tissues. And then how Dr. Wallach, he used to talk about vitamin D, how that, here they mentioned it, how that prevent cancer. Okay, then we got the food grade hydrogen peroxide. Okay, how Dr. Wallach, Dr. Wahlberg got a Nobel Prize in 1931, how that prevented cancer. Okay, so the list goes on. That's why I would say it's an easy disease to get rid of or prevent. Just keeping a high level of oxygen, iodine into your body, and keeping the poisons out. Vitamin D3 is another critical factor for cancer prevention. As noted by Dr. Wally Els, studies show a vitamin 3 level of 40 milligrams per milliliter is a protective against prostate cancer and liver cancer. But for breast cancer, you need a level of 60 milligrams per milliliter. You get that, I believe, from taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. That 60 milligrams per milliliter becomes a magical number when a woman is trying to protect herself from developing breast cancer, Dr. Willis says. Indeed, several studies suggest vitamin D optimization alone can knock your breast cancer down by 80%. Wow. Sensible sun exposure is the best way to optimize your level, but for vast majority of people in the U.S., a supplement is typically required to reach and maintain a level between 60 and 80 milligrams per milliliter year-round. Latitude tends to be a limiting factor because most people in the United States are unable to get a significant amount of vitamin D from the sun between September and May. Even in the middle of summer, you have to spend time outside in a bathing suit, not fully clothed, in order for it to work. Regardless of how you're getting your vitamin D3, the key is to test your levels once or twice a year. This is the only way to ensure that what you're doing is providing your body with vitamin D and you need for optimal health and disease prevention. If you don't know your vitamin D blood level, you have no way of knowing whether your immune system is strong enough to protect you from fast-growing, developing breast cancer cells or not. Keep in mind that if you are obese, your body will store about half of the vitamin D you ingest in your fat cells, which means you need higher doses than someone of normal weight. Quote, if you take 500 IUs of vitamin D3 a day with some food, it could be your body is only able to utilize half of that. The other half is being stored in your fat cells. What some functional medicine physicians are finding is that women or men start to lose weight once they lose 15% of their body weight. The fat cells let loose of the stored vitamin D3, and the 3 level blood levels start shooting up. Many breast cancer cases really aren't breast cancer. As mentioned earlier, mammograms can get you into trouble, can cause. One simple mammogram can really take you down a bad path, says Wally Ellis. First of all, you are compressing like a pancake your breast tissues, which in itself can cause tissue damage. And if you have a tumor, that tumor can possibly be broken apart, resulting in death from breast cancer. DCIS is not actually a tumor. It's not invasive. It's not cancer. Studies suggest only about 5% of DCIS will eventually, a decade or more down the line, turn into cancer. 5% of the DCIS. But probably the major concern that I have with mammograms is that they are the only way the cancer industry would diagnose if a woman has atypical cells or tiny endometrial tumors that may never grow. Dr. Wallace says the term atypical cells later become known as DCIS, a far more frightening term than atypical cells. Fear sells. And this is the truth in the cancer industry as well. DCIS is not actually a tumor. It's not invasive. It's not cancer. Studies suggest about 5% of the DCIS will eventually, or a decade or more down the line, turn into cancer. 5%. The DCIS has now been renamed again as stage 0 breast cancer. Golly. Quote, I have met so many women and they go, I have breast cancer. But happily, they found it early. I'm fine. And to say to them, what stage was it? Sometimes they don't know. But if they do know, they might say stage 0. And the first thing I want to say to them is, you do not have breast cancer. You never had breast cancer. But the problem is they are treated as if they had breast cancer. So a biopsy, often using fine needle aspirations, was done, which inflamed the tissue, which can cause cancer. Sometimes they had surgery. I met women who had double mastectomies because they had DCIS. It's a tragedy. Women lost both their breasts from a study done with DCIS. People are being given all of these reasons to be fearful about breast cancer. My book becomes a unique piece of merchandise in the store because it's saying, no, you don't have to be fear it anymore. There are ways that can stop it before it starts. And with reoccurring death from breast cancer, there's actually are ways that are non-toxic that can literally make metastatic death cells go away. And there's even a case study from Turkey in my book on and how they have used strictly non-toxic metabolic therapies to remove all of the the dead cells from a 30-year-old woman. And as long as she was willing to participate, they stayed on her low-carb diet and had her non-toxin therapies every few months, and she stayed clear. Biopsies are a bad idea. As recommended earlier, 20 to 40% of women treated for early stage breast cancer in the United States go to develop recurring metastatic breast cancer. The question is, what percentage of those cases were actually caused by the diagnosis or the treatment? Dr. Safran clearly describes in his book, Cancer is a Metabolic Disease, the biological process. When a tumor cell is released from a biopsy and the information is happening, the immune system cells, including the macrophages, come in to try and heal this new wound that the surgeon has just created in the breast of a woman. That microcage can then morbid into a lipocell, emerging from that arid breast cancer cell. It can take off into the woman's body. In majority of women who end up with metastatic breast cancer, it goes either to the bone, to the brain, or to the liver, and may be one other spot. It is very clear that there's a metabolic process involved. It's not a haphazardous process. What I'm trying to do, and I'm talking about this in chapter 10, is to get the state cancer board to release the annual data they have on recurring metastatic breast cancer. The state cancer board are required to collect that data within 6 months of the diagnosis from licensed physicians and other licensed clinics. But the state cancer board, to the best of my knowledge, are not allowed to release that data. I feel the recurring ballistic breast cancer epidemic is growing exponentially. You can see this by way of data from clinical studies and from the exponential growth of incoming from metastatic breast cancer drugs. More than 50% of all the income in the breast cancer industry today, the death breast cancer cell income. Certain drugs impact your breast cancer. In her book, Dr. Relic Esser also includes the risk of certain popular drugs. Women who have been on statin drugs for more than 10 years, for example, have been known to double their risk of breast cancer. There is a drug that's 1 in 4 American adults over the age of 40 is on. So it's a significant issue. Another growth of common but hazardous drugs are progestin-based birth control pills and IUDs with progestin. A far safer alternative is a hormone-free copper coil IUD. However, today, the FDA regulators have created a single monopoly price hormone-free IUD, much too expensive for women who do not have health insurance. While the actual cost of this tiny, simple device is about 50 cents, in the U.S., women and their insurance must pay more than $800 to purchase and have the IUD inserted, Dr. Willis explains, this is why my graduate work in political economics came in. So it served me well. I just kept unpeeling the onions. And in the 70s, we'd had a series of types and sizes hormone-free IUDs. They didn't have progestin-based IUDs back then. But by 1999, there was certainly only one IUD on the U.S. market, and that was today's copper coil IUD named Paragard. Suddenly, overnight, the FDA decided to reclassify this 50-cent copper coil from a medical device, what it has been for 30 years, to a pharmaceutical drug. They say that the copper caused the effectiveness of the IUD. Therefore, it's a drug. When they did that, they virtually blocked the market of all other hormone-free IUD, because now that this hormone-free IUD was considered to be drugs and they had remained effective for 10 years, companies had to do a multi-million-dollar 10-year double-blind placebo-controlled study of any IUD or drug. So many women in the United States have developed breast cancer because they've been forced to go on birth control pills, because the cost of that hormone-free IUD become unbearable. Low-income women were given and are still being given the progestin-only contraceptive shots that last for 3 months, which increase your risk of breast cancer worse than we can talk about taking some pill. These drugs are increasingly one of breast cancer's risks, much more than if a woman is a hormone-free IUD, because it's not getting that progestin. I believe that this IUD reclassification in 1999 was done to support the birth control industry. Another good thing is that 75% of people who get breast cancer is in this quarter, right up from the underarms. Because when we use aluminum deodorant, that blocks the toxins from coming out under our underarms and keeping us dry, but it goes into the breast. So another prevention key is aluminum-free deodorant. I'm glad God provided that information with me before I had to sign off. But the engineer's not here, so we're going to keep on going. So what more? Why did no one insist on studying birth control drugs once it was diagnosed? In 2001, the post-metabolic women using progestin-based metabolic drugs increased their risk of developing possible tumors by 26% within 3 years. After all, contraceptive drugs can have 10 times more progestin than metabolic progestin drugs. Quote, they didn't do it, I'm sure, because the industry did not want to destroy the birth control revenue. Okay. And so there's a reason we have seen progestin menopause breast cancer rates increase. Get her book, folks. It's Busting Breast Cancer. 5 simple steps to keeping breast cancer out of your body. I'm going to see if I can get about at least 4 or 5 copies at Healthwise. But you can reach us at 586-757-DIET or 313-366-DIET. You can come by and visit us. We at 3807 East 8 Mile, about 3 blocks west of Ryan, Monday through Saturday from 10 to 7. We can do this, y'all. Beat them cancer, because it's an easy disease to deal with. Peace and love, y'all. Take care.